Scotland and Argentina, folks. The final game. There go my notes. Let's just keep going, eh? Final game of this Nations Championship opening weekend, in which every game was played basically back to back 6 times. Scotland, what an away win, 47 points to 38. So, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the other results and you want to not be spoiled on them, turn away now. It's an even split between North and South this weekend. So Scotland flying the flag for the Northern Hemisphere as underdogs. Quite a few underdog wins. Really pleasing to see the way they got the back line going. And when they picked this team, particularly that Tuipulotu and Hutchinson midfield, I was really excited to see how the back line would run. And I think they ran pretty well. But Scotland, as we've seen in the Six Nations, a fairly kind of low-kicking team, sometimes to their own detriment. But man, when it gets going, it gets going. Hutchinson with some really rippers, some really good lines. Kyle Rowe, so dangerous at the back. Sione Tuipulotu doing that same thing he always does, taking it to the line, out the back. He does it so often, but he's a hard man to compete with. And Argentina just kind of flared into action every now and again. They were very much up and down within the game itself. For a team which struggles with consistency, I felt like they struggled with consistency within the match itself. Like when they turn it on, they can score 2 tries in 2 minutes, and then they can look flat. So it's a bizarre performance from them. They'll be really disappointed, but kind of woe-betide playing Argentina next week because, you know, they tend to bounce back from losses with a win in recent times. We'll go through some of the key events and the stats, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. Flying start from the Argentinians. Oviedo was able to get himself on the board pretty quick smart, and it was interesting to see Argentina basically kind of centrally carrying, not really using any width, not getting any real penetration for kind of 20 plus carries, but just hinting at it when the space was there, shifting it out wide, getting a carry on the left wing, back to the midfield, nice and safe, away from the touch lines, and then when there is a bit of a gap, straighten the line and carry up the guts. So yes, it was pleasing to see them kind of go through all that. Eventually, Scotland concede a penalty after kind of a half break, and Argentina with the line out and the maul. Oviedo goes over, so 7 points to 0. Perfect start for them. Argentina were looking to play with tempo. They took a couple of kind of quick lineouts. They were looking to contest the breakdown pretty hard, but then Scotland did get them some momentum back by winning a scrum penalty, although unfortunately Elliot Miller-Mills, from winning that scrum penalty, went off with a pretty serious looking leg injury. Something must have just popped because, yeah, he had to limp off and looked in a great deal of pain, which is unfortunate because Scotland so often start their tight head Dan Ferguson, and he usually plays like 60, 65, 70 minutes. So I was kind of pleased that Xander was on the bench and someone else would have to do a bulk of the heavy lifting. Xander still, even from the bench, ends up playing basically like not the entire game, but the lion's share of the game. So scrum at least getting on top though was one thing for Scotland to try and arrest some of the momentum. And then they did their own thing where they were quite happy to recycle through the face. They had 13 of their own. Again, a lot of carries in centre field. And then Tuipulotu, the captain, gets the try. Who's the guy who sets it up? Hutchinson with a ripper of a pass. 7 points apiece. Tuipulotu's out on the right wing for that try. Really nicely worked though. Scotland having a bit of patience to go through the phases themselves. So 7 points apiece, like I said. And then it's a quick fire double when Argentina has a penalty conceded after a high ball. Scotland don't kick that much, but when they kick him from Ben White, he can put them really on the money. Kyle Rowe gets the line break. He goes close, and then they pop it to Schoeman, who hits the line at a rate of knots. He goes over, so it's the forwards who finish it, but it's kind of the backs who create that one for Scotland. Great work, misconversion, but 12 points to 7. Scotland, as I said, really looking to use the width, which was very pleasing, and kind of quite happy to play from their own half. So it can be risky. Like if you've seen the Fijian game, you've seen like the Fijians take it to another level, obviously, but Scotland are a kind of slightly more conservative team than that. But unlike other teams who will just default exit kick as soon as they're in a certain part of their own part of the half, not Scotland. Scotland seemed quite comfortable to use the width and to play with confidence from their own half. They did concede a penalty though on 33 minutes. Argentina took the shot at goal to make it a 2-point game. But then, speaking of exits, Argentina fluffed their exit from the restart, and I was giving Scotland a bit of grief in the preview about being a team who's terrible from restarts, especially after scoring. Well, this time it's Argentina. They kick a penalty, immediately knock on from that restart. That means it's a scrum, and from that scrum, attacking field for the Scots to get that back line going. Hutchinson, I'm so pleased he got a try because he's had so little international rugby in a Scotland midfield, which is admittedly pretty stacked, but boy, does he look the part when he's in the team, at least on a day like today. Tuipulotu with the assist, so they kind of set each other up for a try each in this one. Conversion goes over the second time because there was an early charge from the Argentinians, so Tom Jordan gets a second shot at it. 19 points to 10. And Scotland are really getting the better of the breakdown battle as well, which is really pleasing from a Scottish point of view. Like Rory Darge in particular is always looking to hunt. Most of the guys who were getting pinged at the breakdown, it was less about the jacklers getting over the ball, but more about the tacklers not rolling away and the jacklers just being a little bit too quick. But one last shot before halftime, the Scots couldn't quite convert as their maul got shut down. So they go into the sheds with a decent 9-point lead. The Scots, despite having a bit less territory, they have had a bit more ball, which kind of speaks to the way both teams were playing, to be fair. Second half, Argentina get a much needed score. That one was from Isco, and it was the second time they had tried that kick. They tried it earlier on in the game where Santi Carreras puts a kick through for Isco, much the way that the French tried to do it with Bielbiere. This time it paid off because Isco was able to get it. He hurt himself in the process of scoring because he still had a bit of work to do. But it is a nice and much needed try for the Argentinians. So back to a 2-point game. But I feel like here's where the game gets away from the Argentinians, because you look at the tries, there's a 42nd minute try. The next one kind of comes 15 minutes from the end, whereas the Scots have got bang, bang, and then immediately reply to Rapetti's try, bang. They really do take the game away from the Argentinians. At the bonus point one, it starts with Kyle Steyn, who was a little bit maybe quieter than normal, but winning the ball in the air like he can do. Argentina conceding a penalty for offside, not opting for a 3. The Scots touch, maul, Ashman and White combined to go close. It's really nice hands again. And then Gregor Brown, who's fresh off the bench, 26-17. And then I write a note, game over, because Argentina loose passing and Scotland ruthless. It's pleasing to see Scotland ruthless, kind of for a change. Honestly, how many games have I seen where Scotland are up by that kind of score, like 26-17, or even after this try, 33-17, and that's when, like, you're doing the Ralph Wiggum, I'm in danger kind of meme, right? Scotland up with a fairly comfortable lead with still 20 plus minutes to go. Scotland can Scotland this, but no, Scotland didn't Scotland it. They kept being ruthless. Loose Argentina passing, like I say. Scotland looking to play. Jamie Dobie, White, and Cummings with the support line to finish it off. The big lumbering lock in his 50th. So, yeah, Scotland really looking like they were in the driver's seat. That did seem to wake Argentina up for a little bit. Like I mentioned, they played kind of in patches because they started carrying with some real intensity. Albanoz, I talked him up in the preview as well, being a real nice running 10. He did get a bit of kind of run meterage. Montoya, the captain, had a few big carries. He'd been quiet kind of up until that point. Advantage for offside. Dobie gets yellow carded for, I think, not rolling away from a tackle right on the goal line, and Argentina had scored by that point anyway. So, yeah, Rapetti, the big prop, goes over, and Dobie still gets yellow carded because of his cynical play. So, 33 points to 24 with the yellow card. Tell me you're a Scottish fan not watching this going, geez, we're doing it again. Right? But no, despite the yellow card, the Scots go for the jugular. When they get a penalty, they go for touch, they maul it, and then Gregor Hiddleston on debut. Great maul try for the Scots. That is most certainly game over, and the Argentinians cop a yellow card for collapsing the maul as well. So, yeah, any kind of lingering doubts about the result of this game with the Scottish yellow card are surely out the window there. And then the backs combine again for the final try for the Scots. Kyle Rowe gets a deserved one because he'd been cracking through a lot of work all game, getting line breaks, getting run middies. He'd been the real danger man in that Scottish backfield. I think it's Hutchinson combining with Graham and Rowe, and Tuipulotu had a hand in it in the build up to that as well. So 47 points to 24. it is looking like a real hiding. The Scots might crack through 50, but as I said, the Argentinians running a bit hot and cold, did run hot at the end to get a bonus point through Cinti, and then a consolation through to Mojano. Gave them a chance to maybe chase down a second bonus point at the end for finishing within 7, but they could not get it done. So Scots, deserved winners, and like I said, I mean, it's great kind of monkey off the back after last year's end of season result where they threw away a big lead to actually be under that pressure and respond to it well. I think we'll do the Scots good. As I said, I like the fact the kicking was fairly low from the Scots. They played the game they wanted to play. They really got the backline humming, in which a backline was a little bit changed. It didn't seem to miss a beat with no Kinghorn there and Hutchinson coming in the midfield and no Finn Russell and whatnot. They were still, and Tom Jordan going off for an HIA. They were still able to get the backline really humming, and it is a real attribute of the Scottish side. They were winning scrum penalties as well. They got pinged once, I think, when the Argentinians brought on a couple of replacement props. But apart from that, the Scottish scrum was looking good. For the Argentinians, I mean, it's obviously very disappointing. They couldn't get the kind of impact that they would want from some of their big names. They're obviously missing a bunch of guys. Juan Martin Gonzalez, they're missing Marcos Crema. They're missing a load of players, but still, it's a better team, I think, than what we saw for this one. But sometimes the Argentinians just do start the season slowly. Sometimes it takes them a while to kind of get back into things. And as I said, they usually bounce back with a disappointing performance, with a big one for the next game. So we'll see if that is true here. Some stats for you. The line breaks finished 9-3 to the Scots. 5 of those are Kyle Rowe. So when I'm saying he's like the backbone of this backline performance, I'm not really kidding. Like Tuipulotu has a couple, Hutchinson has one, but Rowe more than everybody else combined. The defenders beaten was 24-19 to the Scots. Cinti had 7 for the Argentinians. Tuipulotu had 6. So some of the midfielders getting kind of through those tacklers in those central areas. Darge had 20 tackles. Montoya had 25. It's a big defensive shift from those lads. But yeah, ultimately it's a bonus point win for the Scots. The Argentinians do pick up the 4-try bonus point, but they lose the match. You guys let us know your thoughts. I'm going to do something not rugby for a while. I did watch about 45 minutes of this game in my car on my phone, taking notes on a piece of scrap paper. So, because I had to take my in-laws out, but I watched the second half at home once they were finished having a look around. So yeah, time to do something non-rugby for a bit. You guys let us know your thoughts, subscribe, take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.